What makes a game successful? Is it refined gameplay? Or maybe a touching and emotional soundtrack? Right, so maybe it's the great multiplayer mode. Wrong, wrong, wrong! It's marketing.
To give it more excitement throughout.
Not convinced? Here's a number for ya. 38,104. And no, this is not the number of neurons I burned this Christmas while playing this goddamn thing, it's the number of concurrent players that Atrocity the day before got on release.
You're a degenerate, sadistic old man.
For reference, Hollow Knight all-time peak concurrent players was 20,000, a masterful game that barely managed to get close to the greatest gaming scam of 2023, and the reason for that? Game trailers. The real light that shines upon a game and ultimately determines whether the hype train will even depart from station or just commit railway seppuku from the get-go. But why do we care about game trailers so much? It seems like a stupid question, I know, but the more I think about it, the less obvious it gets. Trailers serve different purposes month after month before the release date, and then they still keep going with the Accolade trailer, in case you might be somewhat more convinced to buy Far Cry 17 if you see a giant disclaimer saying that Eurogamer thinks the game is the most innovative game ever. Even though the full sentence was the most innovative game ever made if it was released in 2002. Trailers are used to reveal a game first and show you some gameplay later, and if you're really lucky, that gameplay will actually make its way into the final product. And let's all be honest here, we all die to see one. I was on my knees waiting for that sweet Kojima juice at every Death Stranding video, so I can't really put myself on a moral high ground here. E3, Gamescom, the Game Awards, all flamboyant spectacles everyone watched, yet they all just boiled down to an endless stream of trailers. And the funny memes.
Ridge Racer! Remember that one?
Yet not all trailers are equal. You have your bullshit ones. With so much high-definition CGI, your average PC would explode just to render the sweat dropping from Captain John Johnson Eagle Guy's face. Then there are those that actually give you the faintest idea what the game is about, and then you have Nintendo here pulling the big boys move with this. That's all you get. Metroid Prime 4 exists. Coming soon on the Nintendo Clickety-Click 4 in 2037. Now, for most of you, this way to classify trailers should sound just fine. You've got the crappy ones, the good ones, the hype trains, and so on. I reject the standards of common sense. For me, you've got the useful ones and then the indistinct blob of absolutely irrelevant ones. This isn't about the trailers being cool, but rather whether or not they actively serve a purpose for me. If you've got a brand new IP to present, I want a teaser that gives me a generic idea of what kind of game it is. What's the story? Do I get to play as Gex?
Now that's what I call getting some tail.
And that's about it. Then, since it's a new IP, you also have to convince me that it's really that bloody good, so sure, I'll watch maybe a couple more trailers to check if it's worth my money. And considering that nowadays there are like 3 original big budget announcements per year and most of the times it's for games that are still just an idea inside the mind of a single game designer who's currently spending 2 weeks to meditate in the forests of Congo to find the right inspiration, that amounts to maybe a total of 8 trailers. And then you have those for remakes and reboots and remasters and re-sequels. That's like 80% of the stuff you see, and more often than not, they're barely useful.
What the hell is this?
I don't need a trailer to know that I'm getting Yakuza 15. I've been playing those games for years at this point. As long as you give me my Mahjong minigame, I'm fine. Come on, seriously, does anyone really need any kind of trailer for GTA 6 to convince them to buy it? You're already selling your house to buy the digital deluxe Turbo Master edition with 1 gazillion shark bucks. Don't tell me you need a trailer to make that final push. But RoboKnob, you and your stupid name, how can I tell if a studio is lying to me with their shady marketing if I don't watch the trailers and then compare them to the final product? Oh, you wanna go there? Alright, it's big brain time then. You play a game, you just want to play the damn game. Whatever the marketing could already believe the game actually was doesn't change whether the final product is good or bad. Even if it's correct to make devs and publishers accountable for their lies, it should ultimately determine if they deserve your trust in the future. The fact that they promise something is irrelevant when you actually get your hands on the controller and play the damn thing yourself, because if the publisher promises you that the next Battlefield will use real people as enemy soldiers and that turns out to be false, what you should care about is whether or not you're having fun, since marketing will always lie to you. So setting up your expectations to the ideal version of the game that was presented to you will always set you up for some level of disappointment. So how about you stop playing games just to make a PC tweet about how one of the car windows in Alan Wake 2 doesn't reflect light realistically and just focus on real problems like the fact that it's 2024 and we still haven't had a Silent 3 game. Alright, with that said, here's ultimately my real issue with trailers. By the time you've seen all the teasers, the dev diaries, the previews, read the lead director's mom's recipe for a bolognese lasagna, you don't just have an idea of what the game is. You can probably even guess the ending. You know everything now, and so you've lost all the element of surprise.
Surprise, surprise! Hey everybody, an old man's talking.
Come over here, kids, and let me tell you about the good old days when gaming was marvelous.
How many times have you heard that from an older guy? Probably 3 times. Gamers are not famous for talking with strangers a lot, but the truth is that things just weren't that different in the 90s. A lot more pixelated maybe. What was different was how we related to games. You barely had any trailers. There wasn't a guy interviewing another guy every second day of the week asking how many times you can respec your Elder Scrolls character in order to achieve the best level of genitalia thickness to impregnate every female NPC in the game. You had to sit tight and wait for the magazine to come out with some news about the next Donkey Kong, and by the time you finished reading it, the game could have already been cancelled and you were none the wiser. Or you could spend 15 minutes trying to load the teaser for the next Crash Bandicoot and get this. You had to go to your local GameStop, look at the game cover and hope that choosing the game with the funny bug eating Teletubbies was a better option than getting the one with the sad lady having a rough hangover. To be fair, both choices back then would have net you a great game. That surprise was what ultimately made some games so memorable. Something almost impossible nowadays unless you make the deliberate choice of just not watching those trailers. And here's my personal example, and honestly the real reason why I made this video to begin with: Tears of the Kingdom and its Ultra Hand. Ask anybody and they'll tell you that this thing was the real game changer. Become the ultimate Iron Man and make your giant car in a cave out of scraps and rule over the beasts that plague Hyrule. And I had no goddamn idea this was even a thing. Why would I know it? Yeah, there was the Mr. Aonuma gameplay demonstration where every single thing was painstakingly shown and explained down to its tiniest detail. But why would I have watched that? I played Breath of the Wild for 150 hours. After the first announcement of the sequel, why the hell should I spoil myself the experience anymore? I know I'm gonna buy it on day one, and I know that nothing will change that, unless Nintendo reveals to be the headquarters of the Fifth Reich and decides to invade the rest of the world. So how about, for once, I just play the game and find out on my own what crazy stuff they came up with. So what I'm trying to say is not that I'm some kind of more enlightened person talking to you all like I'm Jesus teaching kids how to make a bow tie. I'm still gonna watch trailers and I'm still gonna discuss them from time to time. And there is a lot of people that work really hard to make sure you get hyped when watching them. And that's an important part of game development, since with no marketing you would not know about most games that come out every year. Just how about, for once, you give it a go? If there's a game you know you're gonna buy, just try to ignore all the massive coverage surrounding it. You are going to buy it anyway, so why not try to make that purchase even more fruitful for yourself? Unless it's an EA game. The only surprise you're gonna get there is how much they butcher the game with microtransactions.